The shortage of interpreters for the deaf community is not a new problem. This issue needs to be raised to increase awareness that Auslan has been identified as a chronic skill shortage in New South Wales. Jennifer McLaughlin, an Auslan interpreter, talked about her experience of how people perceive deafness in the society.
I remember once I was walking down the street. I think I'd finished an interpreting job and I was with another interpreter and walking down the street and we were just signing to each other. Oh no, the deaf person was there as well, that's what we were signing, so it was the three of us and we were just talking and the person behind us was like, oh, what the fuck are these deaf people doing? Oh, idiots. And I was like, "Phew," and we both turned around. The other interpreter was like, what do you mean? What are you saying? And that person was like, and like embarrassed immediately, just assumed that we couldn't hear what they were saying and just looked like it was a man in like a business suit, was all dressed up and just went and ran away. And it was like, that's amazing, that must happen so many times.
Interpreted by Jennifer, Dylan Hill, worker at the Deaf Society in New South Wales, say that people should see deafness and Auslan as a real thing.
Well, firstly, I would prefer for more people to see deafness as a way of life rather than a disability. Because firstly, Auslan is a real language. It can convey anything at all that any other language can. And so if you have full access to Auslan as a language, there's nothing you'll be able to miss. Because I have a full language and I'm deaf, and so that doesn't really matter that I'm deaf. Some people think, oh, you're deaf, you must miss out on so many things. They just have these attitudes of the way they think of deafness.
According to the Australian Network on Disability, 1 in 6 Australians are affected by hearing loss. There are approximately 30,000 deaf Auslan users with total hearing loss. Dylan continued by pointing out the shortage amount of interpreter, especially those who are accredited and properly trained.
There's obviously not enough interpreters in general, but there's not enough properly trained and specially accredited interpreters as well. The training itself is not really ongoing and consistent. It can be a little bit muddled throughout that process. Like people that are trying to learn Auslan, there's a lot of different pathways they can go down, and people have a lot of different perspectives on the best way to teach Auslan as well. Some people think, oh, it's just a gesture really, and other people really have the belief that it's full language, and then there's other people that think, oh, that's so cute, you're learning Auslan. So I think it's really difficult for people to have a full respect of the understanding of Auslan and the impact that that can have on the training of an interpreter.
According to the Royal Institute for Deaf and Blind Children, on average, 1 Australian child is identified with impaired hearing every day. Dylan highlighted the importance of Auslan for parents with deaf children.
My belief really would be, yes, like the same as Jen, there's really not that many interpreters involved fully in the community to be able to provide the service that we need. But I seriously think that parents that have deaf children as well, they don't have an awareness of sign language, so they don't have any respect for the language, they don't have respect for the education, and therefore there's not really adequate education provided to deaf people and to deaf children. They don't provide interpreters and they kind of get lost. But yeah, there's a lot involved in that whole learning of language. And really, I just never see deafness as a disability in general. A lot of people ask me like how I identify myself, and I think a lot of people expect me to say like, well, I'm deaf and that's a big part of me, but I think it's just a part of me. It doesn't identify myself, it's just something that I have. My big dream, my hope would be for Auslan to be an accredited language, so it could be provided in schools or provided officially.